Hello, everyone. Thank you very much for joining us on this next LinkedIn Live. My name is Justina Brownbridge, and I am the Chief of Growth for Tribal Impact. And I have absolute pleasure to have with me today Purna Virji from LinkedIn and the author of the High Impact Content Marketing book. Thank you for joining us, Purna, and finding the time in your busy schedule to attend this conversation.
Oh, thank you, Justina, for having me. I've been so excited. And we were just talking earlier that this was written in the stars, like it was meant to be, because I remember I quoted a study from Tribal Impact in my book. You got to lead this week. And yeah, all the stars are aligning.
Yes, absolutely amazing. Somebody has submitted a lead via our website saying they've been reading your book, then they heard about Tribal Impact, and here we are talking, which was arranged much earlier, right?
Yeah.
So it's brilliant, and it's so fascinating that we get to talk because Purna, I've been following you for a long time. Like this goes back to you being the Bing person. Yes, person. There you go. The PPC expert representing Bing and educating the market how to run campaigns. I used to be in PPC as well, so that's how I was learning. And it's just fascinating for me to see how your career has changed over time. How I think you touched on quite a lot of things. You were in marketing and PR. You then became a trainer in Bing, and then you moved into L&D, right? Which is kind of something that we've got very much in common.
Yeah.
And now, correct me if I'm wrong, but you wrote a book. So I guess that's my assumption in here is that content is your main subject. Yes. Why is that? I'm just curious. I love to start these interviews with why. Just straight away, no simple questions, Why is content your
Why
thing right
content?
now?
That's such a good question. And it's something that I've never really had a chance to think about, but until you just asked me. But if I had to sort of break it down, it's like everything in my life has been content. So I studied journalism, and so I worked in journalism for the first few years of my career, and I realized that I loved I'm what somebody will describe as a multi-passionate individual. So I love to learn about different things. I really couldn't decide like what one thing I wanted to do. And I'm like, oh, in journalism, you'll get to cover and learn about lots of different things. So that's it. I always liked writing, even as a kid, and I loved telling stories. And that's the key. And so I hit it in different forms. I worked in journalism. I moved into PR, quickly realized like PR is awesome, but I am just not that great at it. And then I discovered search marketing and advertising, and falling into it, like the things that gave me passion were learning about it and then sharing tips with others. So in fact, I had done a lot of speaking and writing for publications, and I had connected with Microsoft and that team. And when they were putting together this brand new team, they were like, do you want to do this? And I think I got really lucky, to be honest, Justina, like to be able to figure out what I loved, because at Microsoft, I was able to work on so many different types of programs and goals and global teams that I think I've realized in everything, content's been the connecting dot. So whether I'm using content to evangelize search and search marketing, or I'm using it to, tell stories in journalism, or, build an agency and do PR campaigns, at the end of the day, it's all content. It's everything we touch.
Yeah. That's brilliant, right? And L&D, right? Working with L&D, educating people. This is all content, right? This is all sharing the knowledge. Like you said, I love that. You said you love learning about the things and then sharing it with others. Whatever the form, it's still some sort of type of content. But you talk about in your book about high impact content. What does it mean, in your words, for content to have high impact? What we're trying to achieve?
So high impact is not just maximum revenue results, but that it's actually valuable for both you and your customer. So if you think about a little Venn diagram, it's like what drives business needs and what helps drives your audience outcomes and goals and desires. And if you look at the overlap, like that's where high impact content starts. It's very intentional. It's very deliberate. It's getting off that content creation treadmill, right? Every day we're panicking, like, oh, I've got to create another piece of content. No, it's like, let's think about it. What's the goal? let's be more strategic. It's just rethinking our approach to be timeless as opposed to chasing silver bullets and, blowing one way or the next. So that's really the whole key. It's very simple, and sometimes simple is the hardest thing to get right.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think even in your book, you were mentioning this great analogy of if you were a chef, yes,
Yeah.
would people really want you to serve more and more food um, beyond the expectations, or is it about the quality, right? Why is it that people come to you also as a publisher or as a trainer or whatever it is that you are? It's not because you give a lot, but you give a lot that it's valuable. Would you say that would be the summary of
Exactly. And so
impact?
the cool thing is about in my career, I spent the first 10 years of my career working startups and scale ups. And so I never had any budget. And so I always had to be like super, super creative and then very, very strategic because every dollar mattered for survival, right? If you're in a startup or a scale up. And so I think I mastered the art of like rubbing two pennies together and making it look like, $100. And so
Brilliant.
that's the key. So that's high impact is when I come in, even at LinkedIn, for example, like I could build this sort of program that yields significant revenue, but have no budget beyond people's time like on it. And it meets the needs of the business. More importantly, it helps empower, educate, uplift our audiences who listen. And we do very few things, but we do them really, really well.
Empower, educate, uplift. I love that.
Yeah.
As ways of what to aim for with your content. By the way, this is a live experience. Yes, we are on LinkedIn live at the moment. So what this means is that I have, of course, a list of questions. It's a very long list, and I am very much aware of the time limit that we have as well to go through these questions. But if you have any questions, if you're watching us right now and you would like to ask Purna any question, please put them in the comments. Or in fact, if there's anything that is resonating or you would like to add your own comments, this is what makes these experiences so much more alive. Yes, just live, but alive when we can have our audience joining us. And in fact, I already have Mari Alonso saying, there is no one like Purna. She is amazing. There you go. What a testimony.
Marie is lovely, and she's a former co-worker of mine. So hi, Marie, and friend. So it's lovely to hear from Marie. In fact, she was really awesome at PR, and I was working in PR at the time, and I'm like, I am rubbish at this, and I need to switch over to digital marketing.
So digital marketing, yes. So yes, you are working in digital marketing, and there is a big buzzword, not only buzzword, trend, conversation, massive conversation about thought leadership content. And at least from what I'm observing, I think there is some misunderstanding, or at least some sort of level of misunderstanding of what thought leadership content actually is in comparison to perhaps other types of content. I'm just so curious, Purna. Now I'm making up words as well. Sorry about that, Purna. What would you say? What is your definition of thought leadership?
I agree with you. It's such a like buzzy word, and at the end of the day, if we had to break it down into the simple concepts, it's showing people who you are, what you're passionate about, what you have expertise in a very sort of authentic and human to human connection way, right? Because people resonate, people listen to people talk to people, are inspired by people, and people buy from people. And we will tend to always, people will tend to follow other people before they follow like brands and companies. And so in this world where there's so much competition and sometimes offerings aren't that different from time to time, like what sets people apart is building that personal brand and showcasing the why, the who, the what you are as a company. And I think, you interviewed Rand on your show before, and Rand is such a perfect example because he built both Mars and SparkToro on the basis of, thought leadership, where he's helping uplift, empower, educate, entertain audiences. And you can't think of SparkToro without thinking about Rand. You can't think of Moz still without thinking about Rand. And that really is just showcase who you are, what you're passionate about, what you have expertise in, and share it.
Mm-hmm. I love that. I love that definition. And I can just imagine, because our audience typically for these LinkedIn lives is either program managers or employees that are on the receiving front of these programs, or just about to be, from large B2B organizations. And I might be guessing, and go on, let it be a wild guess, but I might be guessing that there is a question in their head right now, is that, how can I do this if I am an employee of a company, and let's say the company has got, or has had so far, a content strategy that they were implementing through their own channels, and now they are starting to encourage employees to become thought leaders, yes, to find their voice, to build their brand on LinkedIn. Without the guidance, I can imagine guidance comes from these companies, but in these very early stages, employees would be asking, is this different? Should this align with my company? How can you merge the two? Just curious, what are your thoughts on this? This type of question that people may have.
That is an awesome question, and it's one we hear quite often. They'll marketers will build out their content strategy, and then they're like, "Oh, thought leadership, this is new. I need to do this. So now I need a whole separate strategy." And then they get so overwhelmed. And the good news is you don't. You can really infuse it into your existing strategy. So my coworker Fernanda, hi Faye, is brilliant, and she created this amazing analogy where she says, if you think about your content strategy as a house, then thought leadership should be one of the load bearing walls. It's just one key essential element in your strategy. And so if you are building out, let's say, your content calendar, your content plan for the next few months, so to speak, figure out, okay, not everything needs to come from the company voice. How can you amplify? How can you expand on? How can you put that personal touch with infusing in people certainly in? So let's say if you've got I shall give you my favorite example. So this is one of my favorite examples. It's even a couple of years old, but it stuck out to me. We just had CES this month again. And a couple of years ago at CES, it was Samsung. Samsung was presenting their technology. Now we know, like, the Consumer Electronics Show, CES, always has the sexiest technology, right? The technology itself just justifies content written about it. But what Samsung did, and they had this post on LinkedIn that said, hear about the sort of new, whatever technology, I forget now, that they debuted, but from the perspective of the product managers who built it, like, understand what they were thinking, like how they approach building it and how they built it. Like, that is so much more compelling, because it goes from a product pitch or product overview to really now getting into the, how do they think about it, this human interest angle. And so you can talk about both. So they infused it in their content strategy at that time, and it had a win-win scenario. It made the employees feel really good. It helped build their talent brand, where other people might want to be like, oh, Samsung's awesome. They, always highlight their people, and this is the freedom they give. So that was just one of my favorite examples. Microsoft, my former employer, also does that. They had their, on one of their blogs, I think it's the Work Lab blog, they had this feature about AI, like, hear about how the people who build Microsoft's AI products are using it to get more creativity and efficiency in their day. And now I'm like, oh, I want to read this, right? Like, they built it. How are they using it? So that's the same way, like, your people can amplify and make your sort of brand marketing message is much more relatable.
And it's so fascinating, because just going back 15 years maybe ago, who was the voice of the company? Like, I'm trying to think, who did we hear from? It usually was the top management, right, who got interviewed for Wall Street Journal or another, I don't know, let's say another financial publication, or any type of other publication, or perhaps salespeople, right, who you would only hear from when they would go to a meeting with a client. So even the reach of the messaging was very much one-to-one, rather than what we have right now. I can imagine that campaign of Samsung or Microsoft that went beyond conferences, that was also on social media. I think you said with Microsoft, right, in the form of videos. I love that, because you get to hear from people that you wouldn't historically hear from, about the things you wouldn't historically be told about.
Yeah, I think Apple launch has really changed the game a bit because, of course, before it was all about Steve Jobs. But now, if you go to, I just use Apple as an example because everyone tunes in to watch it. But they will have these demos. It's always like the CEO will come out with a big inspirational message, which, as you rightly said, we're so used to hearing from like the C-suite or the execs. But then what they do is they'll bring in different people, different product experts to come in and talk about a particular different feature, or give you a demo of the product. And that's so interesting. Like, we as an audience, even as an average consumer audience, like not necessarily in the weeds tech experts, we'd still tune in and we want to listen to everyone. And so you're right that before it used to be only about the C-suite, and sometimes I find that is a little bit of pushback that I'll get, that, I guess because my CEO or CMO or CXO is too busy, I guess I just can't do thought leadership. And that's not true at all. In fact, it's so much better and more powerful and more impactful overall if you can loop in employees across different levels and different subject matters in your thought leadership, because it feels that much more robust. Everyone, in B2B, there's not just one decision maker, isn't it? Like, it's not just the person who signs the contract. There tends to be, end users, influencers, implementers. We call it a buying committee, right? The 7.8 people on average in a buying committee, if I recall
saw
correctly.
article yesterday from LinkedIn. It's 11 now. Like,
Is
literally,
it 11 now? Oh my gosh.
breaking news from yesterday, 11.
Wow. And and think about it, sales cycles anyway used to be on average like several months, and now with the economy the way it is and budgets tightening, the sales cycles have gotten so much longer. If I kept coming out from the brand voice being like, hey, Justina, like, buy my book, you'd be like, please block, unfollow, like, do not recommend to anyone, right? Who wants that? You want to go out and show people who you are. One of my friends, AJ Wilcox, said this. He's like, Pranav, you want people to get to know you, then they'll start to like you, and then they'll start to trust you. And like, that's how you build a relationship and a rapport with people. And that's exactly what we want to do with thought leadership and across different levels. So where do you start? Your CEOs are really busy. Where do you start? Look at who's already active on social media. Sometimes that's the easier place to start, because lower barrier to entry, and then help empower them, guide them. But to go and look across every angle, like if I had to pick one place to really invest in, would be salespeople. Why? Because sales cycles, again, getting so much longer. We as people are just getting so much better and more effective at filtering things out, right? We might have sort of just ignored something before, like a cold call or something, and now it probably irritates us more and more. Like, the tolerance for mediocrity is just dwindling. And so if the whole difference between a salesperson cold calling and saying hello versus somebody whose content they've seen before, found value in, I've seen you, I know you, I like you, I trust you. If you cold call me, the chances of me saying yes or setting up the call are so much higher. So I think that's a big place where I'm going to see, where I personally expect to see growth, is just having more sellers grow their personal brands, but also product people, marketing, and even different levels of people in the organization, because they each talk to the different person in the buying committee in a different way.
I love all the points that you made in here, and I would like to refer to so many of them. But let's just look at the audience saying, there you go. David Perry said, that is true. Servant leadership, shining the spotlight on employees, not just senior management. Love it. Okay, so that's going back to activating leaders on social media. There you go. April said, so glad I'm here to watch my friend and former coworker doing her thing, doing your thing.
April and I worked we produced a series of talk shows together. She was my boss and she was awesome. And yeah, a great friend. Hi, Ape.
There you go. There's more highs from few other
Yeah.
people. So fantastic. Thank you guys for joining in. Feel free to ask questions if you have any on the subject or any comments. Somebody asking, how are you? I'm very good. Thank you. Judging by Purna's smile, I think she's fine too.
Oh, yeah, it's all awesome. I have my
So,
tea. I'm good. Yeah.
oh, I've got my, oh my God, lemon, ginger, and honey. There you go. That's,
Oh, nice. I've got masala chai. It's like this is what fuels me. So
oh, brilliant. Brilliant. I'm not going to tell you what, well, go on. I had the sugar just before that. That is something I failed on in January. Let me tell you that, you know.
listen, life is worth living. Life needs to feel worth living, right? That's the whole point. You only live once.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Feeling so much better now. So there you go. Gulam, I'm actually even better than I was 5 minutes ago. There
I'll
you go.
help you justify your guilty vices and anything else you want. So that's my sort of secret challenge. So call me up if you're like, I think I did something bad. I'm like, no worry, we'll justify it.
Oh, poor now. I'll call
I'm
you every
only
day.
kidding.
You'll get a call every day.
I'm like, no, I can't. Like, I shouldn't even be justifying anything.
Right. Thought leadership. We talk about leaders, but we talk about, because again, thought leadership, right? We're thinking leadership, leaders. Do you have to be a leader? Do you have to be an expert? And you just proven no, absolutely not, right? You know, people who are behind the products, if we get to hear from them and their thinking behind why they created something so much more valuable than the beautifully polished marketing message that comes out as a result of you know, all of the thinking of how we should position this product to the market.
Exactly. And that's valuable too. Like it's still got its place. I think it's just not enough anymore. And people want to get to know people. We're all craving authenticity so much more. Like all those, even people going out with those like beautifully produced videos and reels, like it's not connecting as much as somebody just having a more authentic, like, this is my day, this is what I think, this is, something like that. So think about it. But can I give you a really good example to illustrate? Oh, actually, this is my favorite example to illustrate the point about how at different levels, just different people in the organization can ultimately benefit you. I'll use the example of SEMrush because most of our marketers in the audience know the brand, but they did an excellent job on LinkedIn. So a couple of months ago at this point, they were releasing a brand new feature, like something AI powered. They were really proud about it. And they put out an awesome company post. It was a great post talking about the release. They had this really fun image that used sort of humor to get attention. And the post did really well. In the first week, I remember it had about 600 engagements, if I recall correctly. Great post. You'd look at that and be like, successful, like, not, pretty good. But then the same day, my good friend Olga Andrienko, who is their VP of brand marketing at SEMrush, posted about it. But she posted about it from her point of view. She's like, in my sort of 9 years at SEMrush, like, I've never been so excited about a launch. Like, and she went into more details about how it was created and what it can do and what she's seen. And it was from an executive point of view, and it was just added a different context and conversation. She had the same number of engagements in terms of likes and reactions, but she had like 83 plus comments in the first week alone on her post. So if you can think about it, that's just a massive reach amplifier because people were more willing to ask her questions or learn a little bit more. And then the advantage is with any social media algorithm, or especially on LinkedIn, is if I comment on your post, Justina, then your post will show up to my network and my audience. So just think about the reach and the force amplification that she did. But wait, there's more. And then my other friend, Nicole Pons, who leads their influencer marketing team at SEMrush, a week later, she did another post about, she works with more the practitioners, the SEOs, and she's like, SEOs have always been complaining about this, or these are the common struggles that I've seen people face. And then she went into it from a much more like tactical, like, day-to-day end user approach. And she also got so many reactions and so many comments. And it was the one idea, right? Promoting a new feature, but it was able to be presented from lots of different angles and approaches. And oh, Nicole's in the chat. Nicole, you're so amazing. I'm always such a fan. Thank you for all your awesome content. I obsessively stalk you.
So that's Nicole that published that content. Are we talking?
Yes, it was so
Amazing.
good. And I'm like,
There you
Nicole,
go.
you're awesome. So, like, I love what they do. And I always like, just look at this force multiplication in play here. You reach the different decision makers in the buying committee. You get to, connect to different people, maybe overcome different objections, or just repeating the message.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's brilliant. And we know, because we analyze a lot of data as well, that the company message versus the message from employees, especially those with higher networks. I mean, in general, employees have 10 times higher network than the company itself as a profile. The reach is higher, right? So you reach more people. You say that if somebody comments as well, then that reach increases even further. Engagement likely is to be higher. And then the impact of the message, like you said, the personal view of someone approaching that from a different angle. And you've just shown, because Nicole is saying, you are amazing. So are you, Nicole? We're all now going to be looking for that post. It sounds like that's where the real impact in terms of trust will be.
Yes, I agree. Trust is so important. And that also comes from what you talk about and how you talk about it. So at LinkedIn, we did the study about, or actually it was an external study that we sort of leverage, or we talk about, was, what is it that decision makers and everybody want to hear? So what we knew from some of our past research at LinkedIn is that people come to our platform as a way to invest their time. Like, they're there to grow both personally and professionally. So they're there to learn, to engage, meet amazing connections. And so make sure that the content that you're putting out, especially on LinkedIn, like, will meet the needs of the audience on the platform. So come up with, a fresh perspective, or share your opinion. That's one of the big things that also can help your post get more sort of reach and engagement, is even if you're sharing an article, even if you're sharing just an image that might feel self-explanatory, add your point of view, because that's what helps people get to know you and helps you stand out from like the 10 other people that may have shared the same article, where, you can say that, oh, this really stood out to me, or, I was surprised to see this, or, whatever your perspective is. That you don't always have to be creating posts all the time. You can curate content, but just lend your point of view to it. And that's such a simple thing to do to get started.
I love that. I love that. I love that little simple tip, right? You could simply share the article and says, this is interesting. That is not going to be a scroll stopper, because you didn't say why, right? You didn't have your perspective, and just adding your perspective, that already adds more beyond what the article said. Or sometimes it's as simple as summarizing the article, or the main point that you found most interesting in the article. It gives people an idea. Okay, why should I care? Why should I stop? This sounds interesting. I'm going to click now and I'm going to read more because that sparkled my interest.
Yeah, I remember. I tried to think of the posts that like stick with me for like a year plus, and there was this awesome one from Microsoft's Chief People Officer Kathleen Hogan, where it was still in the middle of the pandemic, and there was an article, I think it was on Harvard Business Review or Forbes, like one of those really good publications, about just being a single parent and working during the pandemic. And then she shared that article, but then she added this really vulnerable, authentic post about how she added some of her perspectives on how she struggled and so on. And it's so empowering and freeing to others, right? What does Brene Brown say? Like, the most courageous thing you can do is be vulnerable, because it just instantly connects you to other people. And then I remember reading that post, being so blown away. It got, way more reactions and reach and engagement than even the number of followers that she had at the time, for a reason, because it just connected to somebody who touched it, someone else, and they could relate. And almost, if you seeing somebody in a sort of such a senior leadership position being vulnerable, it almost is like, oh my gosh, I'm not alone. I'm not going through this alone. And, these posts stick with you sometimes years later.
Yeah. It shows the real human face of people, but also give permission others to behave in a similar way. And it doesn't mean sharing on social media, sharing something personal on social media. It's a big thing. but being maybe a bit more open within the company, right, amongst your own employees, because that also creates a safety culture of um, I don't know. I've got this idea that innovation doesn't come out of nowhere. You really have to have that psychological safety within the company that tells people, "Hey, try. You may fail, but try. What's your idea? Let it shine. Tell us. Let's see if we can run with it. If not, that's fine. Let's fail, but let's fail fast." If we cultivate that kind of behavior online as leadership, then that definitely shines the light on what sort of behavior could be also happening more within the organization itself.
I so agree. I so agree. I think it's the biggest gift that you can give your team is that go do this, risk mitigate as you need to, but tell them like go make 99 mistakes and get you'll get 1,000+ learnings as a result, and then you'll just be super better as a result. And like I had a manager who once told me, it's like, go do this, make 99 mistakes, it's okay, and come back. And I'm like, really? And I have like given my life for that manager. I said for so long, I'm like, yes, whatever you want, boss. So,
brilliant manager. What a great
yeah,
manager.
I know. I miss her every day. But I've been very lucky. I've had great managers throughout. So yeah.
Amazing. Someone is asking a question, and I can also see somebody else is interested in this. For which company goals you see management invests in employee advocacy?
Multiple. It can help you with like awareness and reach, and sort of just build that brand affinity and the differentiation. What was the quote? I forgot. That's a great quote that said, and my friend Ethan Decker just posted it recently on LinkedIn, where he said, be less worried about what people think about you and be more worried about whether they think about you at all. Because when people are ready to make their purchase decision, like who comes to mind? Like, are you even in that short list? So that one thing is that sort of brand awareness, brand affinity, like the brand preference needs to stand out. Like just get yourself an option. Two, it could make all the difference. You could build trust. You could build like, there's 5 different SEO agencies. Which one should I go with? Oh, let me go with this one because like I know the leader, I have trust, and so on. So it helps below. So it helps also with employer branding, which is the other thing that I think us marketers don't always think about. But if you can empower your people, because your people are what is really unique about you, right? Other people may have the same solution, but your first party data and your people are your core strength that set you apart. So if they go out there and talk about it, and you can see when people are really happy and engaged, then more and more people want to work for that company. Right, because you hear all of this about LinkedIn all the time. Like every LinkedIn employee is out there talking about how the culture is so amazing. And, you open one job at LinkedIn and so many people apply. And you want that, right? Because that's how you attract the best talent too.
To the company, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I think I read something as well. Somebody was sharing recently, like employer branding is not the final goal, Don't tell me that you've got a good employer brand. Really, where it comes from is what is it like to work for the company? Yes, that you start with that, looking after your employees, making sure that they are happy, making sure that their basic needs are met in terms of salary, in terms of benefits, in terms of the psychological safety, then they'll be more likely to share on social media, right? It doesn't start with sharing. It doesn't start with them creating content. It starts with them feeling like they are part of a great company that allows them to, exactly, right. What does it allow them to do? So what can employee, in your opinion, do to become a thought leader on social media, knowing that they are part of a bigger company with a bigger strategy?
I would say the first thing that they should do is make sure they update their profile on LinkedIn. It's like one of the simplest things that sometimes people forget is just go through, make it really comprehensive. And just comprehensive sounds very overwhelming. No, just fill in all the gaps, make sure people know who you are, what you do, what your role is, like what you are passionate about, your skills. And then just the next thing is think about what you want to be known for or associated with, right? What are those 3 to 5 things? It doesn't have to be a million. And what's your area of passion and expertise? This is really important to know, and I can't stress this enough. It's because if you want to hone in on the areas that you are passionate about and an expert in, because you're going to have to talk about this for a long time. So can you come up with multiple ideas? And is this something, like, I'll always joke and say, like, if you shook me in the middle of the night, and said, like, talk about something, I'm like, I could talk ad nauseum about content marketing or marketing in general, right? So this is so easy for me because I know the industry so well. I know the people. I've been in multiple people's shoes here. So, like, I know what it's like to be in the trenches, and I've made so many mistakes. If I can teach others to learn, that's what I'm passionate about. So what are you passionate about? So you can come at it and talk about it in different ways for a long time. And then the third thing, and the most critical part, is align your passions and expertise areas with what is a sort of business and a company goal. And one person cannot do everything. Let's say you as a company want to start talking about sustainability, and you have a particular person or a couple of people who are personally really, really passionate about it, or have a lot of, or who've driven that expertise. Find those areas of overlap. Be like, okay, you would be the right person for me to tap first for sustainability, right? Identify your key subject matter experts. So, like, oh, you are always a great person to comment on, like, trends and product evolution, or you are the right person to talk about just HR policies and, inclusion and diversity, etc. So, like, whatever the different topics are, find those people and then keep a list. Like, it's so important. Keep that list. A little structure, a little organization will save you, because the next time you're creating your content strategy, maybe you're looking at the next 6 months, you're like, oh, I'm going to talk about this as a brand. Who are your people? Who are your people who will overlap with some of those, and then just infuse them in? So again, that's how they become part of your strategy. And be like, oh, I'm going to go to April for this. I'm going to go to Marie to talk about PR. I'm going to talk to Nicole about influencer marketing and so on, right? I'm going to talk to Justina about, like, leading this massive, like, content program. I'm going to talk to Ryan about how smooth it is to produce LinkedIn Lives.
Another hint, Ryan, another hint. Purna,
Yeah.
just before we went live, yes, was talking to our Ryan, who is behind the scenes right now, of how important it is, how little content it is about how to run a LinkedIn Live. So Ryan didn't say no about sharing it, so just going to leave it like that. There he is, smiling.
Sorry,
Brilliant.
Ryan. I volunteered you for some work.
Not putting you at all on spot, not at all. We've got loads of comments in here. I don't get a chance to actually read them. Let's have a look.
I can read them too.
Let's have a look. Okay. Yes, somebody from Halo saying that they used to be at LinkedIn, seeing the power of employee advocacy, and now they see how that can empower companies even further. He's loving the webinar. He or she, I actually don't see the name. So I can see this question 3 times. Natalia has got a tricky question. Go on, let's try. Tricky question that I ask myself all the time. How does one speak about their thing without disconnecting from the level of knowledge of average Joe has? How not to stay closed up in a bubble? Thinking about my area SEO, which seems like a wide topic, but barely anyone from outside the bubble understands the conversation. Very interesting.
I love this question so much. And to me, when I read that, I'm like, what an amazing opportunity. If the bar is lower, then you can only exceed it and excel even more, right? So this is such a good opportunity. And it's simple, which not necessarily means easy to do, but I will just say, like, ultimately, it's no rocket science. The first thing you can think about is, who is your audience that you're trying to reach, right? Are you trying to stand out as an SEO expert so you get hired by more, like, small to mid-sized companies? That you're trying to get another job in-house? Who's your end audience that you're trying to drive impact for? And then get in their head and understand, like, what are the questions they may have. And I think, as a former SEO myself, I can say this, that we sometimes shoot ourselves in the foot, because we're all out there talking about algorithms and all of these technical terms, and that's not how, CMOs talk about it, right? CMOs ultimately, SEO, content marketing, PPC, like they're just different spokes in the overall marketing wheel. And so they're not in the weeds. And if you go in and be like, oh, I organized this, let's say you're an event coordinator manager, and you're like, oh, I built this awesome event and I had all of these like badge check-ins, or I had all these 1,000 people coming. The next question is going to be, so what? Like, what does that mean for our business? And so if you can start to translate the so what and align your sort of goals in whatever channel and discipline you specialize in with business goals, and just explain the regions, like here's really why SEO matters. Or if you're doing, international SEO, like make sure you're doing this or you're not messing something up, or talk about opportunities and risks, and like find creative ways to address their questions. Like honestly, if you study your audience and understand what they don't know or want to know about, your content will almost write itself. Right? You'll have exactly your list of topics. I mean, just you do this all the time. Like, how do you do it? Like, how do you come up with your topics and ideas?
Through conversations with people. Very often, if I don't know, well, we run our own marketing campaigns, yes, so we've got our own challenges, but we also train people, yes, how to build their online presence. And very often I just get asked a question during a coaching session, a training session, or here in the client meeting, and I think more people could learn from this. And moreover, I don't know, I go on LinkedIn and I see what sort of questions are being asked there, what conversations are happening, and that is giving me an idea of where I can tap into the conversation with my own expertise. So yes, multiple sources, but usually, listening and figuring out where I can contribute, where I can see potentially my knowledge could help someone.
Exactly. Just nailed it. Exactly. Just do what Justina does, because that is the most brilliant way to go forth. It just listen and consume, and then go check out reviews. Natalia, just one thing with SEO, because so often what I find is like SEOs sometimes like to put out content for other SEOs, and then it's an awesome community, and I'm so lucky. I feel like my life changed for the better from having been in the SEO community. Don't just post content that other SEOs will like and share, like post it for your end audience, or sometimes break it down if you have to. You can come up with different levels, because people, in my book, there's this awesome concept from Eugene Schwartz, which is like the 5 levels of awareness. And I've covered it in my book as well, but try to make sure that you're having content that covers all 5. So somebody who may not even know that they have a problem and that there could be even a solution, how do you address them, versus somebody maybe who knows they have a problem, they knows what solutions are, they just don't know that you exist. So for them, you'd want to talk to them differently. So just meet people where they are at and have a couple of different pieces of content. Doesn't mean that you have to create like 8,000 pieces of content. You can just take one idea and come at it from different angles, and do it well.
That's a great tip. We often just think that we can only talk about one idea once, but this one idea could be covered in so many different ways, from different angles, just slightly different way of explaining it, different formats, yes, different timing as well. And it's still something that will give people the knowledge that they don't have at the moment. We often think, like with the content creation, that we always have to produce something new, something that adds a new innovative idea to the market. It's like people are at different stages of learning, wherever they are, whatever it is that they are trying to buy. So that would be my tip as well, just thinking where people are on their journey of understanding what is their problem, if they have a problem or a challenge, and what are the solutions to that. And when you think about that, then it's easier to also match the content to the right audience.
Yep. And the analogy I always use is, if you were trying to explain what you did to a fellow marketer versus like your 5-year-old niece or nephew, like you would not say the same thing. So you just want to tailor it for your audience's level of both awareness and interest.
Love that. Okay, we are up on time. I don't know how that happened.
Bye, Justina. What is this? I could talk to you for hours.
If we could just let's just have a look, because I can see a couple more comments in there. I've been loving your book, Purna. Thank you for all the insights. There you go. Courtney is saying.
Oh, thank you, Courtney.
And somebody found you through Marketing Meetup and have recently purchased your book again, which I'm very excited to read.
Thank you, Meg.
There you go. That's the book. I've got the book as well. I'm reading it myself. I feel a bit embarrassed that I
Oh,
haven't finished it yet, but I am on the mission to get it all done because it's fascinating. The fact that you also add in things like how people learn, behavioral science. I've never seen that. I've never seen that in the context of marketing. But if thought leadership is what you said, your approach to thought leadership, learning about something and then sharing it with others, right? Then knowing how people learn and how they digest information is crucial. And I've just never seen that being connected to marketing or talked about within the marketing context. So just that part is absolutely brilliant.
oh, thank
Just
you. Like, I really
that
think it's
part.
a superpower. It's a superpower to understand how people's brains work. But do we have a minute to answer Meg's question,
Go
or
for it. Go for it. Do you have
okay,
any
we
advice
go.
for someone with generalist marketing experience wishing to pursue content marketing? Okay.
So the good thing is that, Meg, it's so awesome that you've got generalist marketing experience. It's the same thing. Like, okay, content marketing per se is a term that has been very recently coined, right? It's like a man-made term. I mean, full credit to like Content Marketing Institute and Joe Polizzi, and it's an awesome term, and it so accurately sums up what we do. But ultimately, marketing is marketing. The principles haven't changed. In people haven't changed, right? How we communicate has changed, but how we think and act and what motivates us has remained the same, I would say, since we were Neanderthals roaming the planet. So your generalist marketing advice is perfect and spot on, and just connect the dots. You'll be like, oh, I want to do this, it's this. And like, how do I just convey that in the form of content? Because I think you're just way more ahead than you might even give yourself credit for. So that was my very quick answer.
Love that advice. Love that. I've only gone through a few of my questions, but hey, we are where we are. I've got a final one for you, Purna, if that's okay.
Of course.
To wrap it up, and then I don't know, maybe there'll be something else. But for me, the final one is you've already shared some tips on how you could get program managers to think about how to start activating people to share more for leadership content, etc. One of your tips was, or the first tip was, start with those that are already active. What would you do next? Like, if you were to give some final tips on what to do next, just to give people some idea if they are at this early stage, what would that be?
So if they're already active, I would say just think about what are the types of things they talk about, and then see where it might fit in your content strategy coming up. If you've got some kind of goal or something you're trying to achieve, reach out to them and be like, hey, you are such a strong voice on X, Y, and Z. We're looking to do a more in-depth campaign. Like, can I either give you a couple of seeds or ideas or topics, or share some of it in advance with you so that you can come up with your approach and come up with whatever it is? That would be such a simple way to get doing. It's like, figure out what your goals are, where they can really tie in, and give people, like, show them what success would look like. You'd be like, listen, it would be so awesome if you're talking about this. This is a big deal for it. And then they can figure out the how. They can put it in their own words, so that way it doesn't feel scripted. It's always better if it feels authentically for them. So do that. And I mean, see if they're interested. And if they're not interested, then that's okay too. There's no pressure. But I mean, for most people would feel quite good about doing that. Or try to share across the company more about marketing, because you'll give yourself a bigger seat at the table too. It'll be like, hey, these are a couple of campaigns that are coming out there, like keep an eye out for them, or keep a lookout for them. And if you ever want to chime in or add, like, here's a couple of social posts that we suggest, like, put it in your own words, do something, just make it easier, give them a landing page, give them something if it helps, or let them find more info.
Fantastic. Brilliant tips. Brilliant tips. And I think that's that guidance. Yes, a little bit of a guidance to people of where they could help as well. That will make them feel also more important, right? They will realize,
Mhm.
hey, my expertise fits into what it is that the company is doing. They might actually even give them more motivation to post more often about specific subjects that helps them become more known for specific subject as a specialist.
Exactly. And there's a cool thing that one of my sort of connections at Microsoft, Keith Boyd, had ran this whole team where they almost had like a beat, like reporters, where they'd go in and like talk to different people in the company and like, what are you doing? What's something cool? And they would come up with ideas then for the blog. And so they would come out. So almost like think like a journalist to sort of I started as a journalist. I would say, like, let's end. It's a good bookmarking. Is think like a journalist. Go out there, build your beat, quote unquote. Bug different people in the company. Like, what are you passionate about? What are you looking at? What are you working on? What's cool? And see if you can infuse it into your efforts.
I love that. I love these tips. So many practical tips for that. I could talk to you for hours. I think we need to have a follow-up LinkedIn Live at
Oh,
some
we
point.
do. We need to have a long, like, just like a happy hour wine chat and content marketing. Like, we were destined, Justina, to be best friends. I totally told you.
I love that. I love that, Purna. I would love that, and I love the fact how audience was how engaged the audience was. This is absolutely brilliant. I think we're gonna have to go through all of these comments because I think there were a few that we missed. But thank you very much, everyone, for joining us for this incredible chat with Purna. If you've got any more questions, Purna is so active on LinkedIn, right? I think this is a controversial question. Really, it shouldn't even be here. This is your platform, right, where you publish most of the content, or
Yes.
you have other
Yes.
ones as well?
LinkedIn is, and not because I work for LinkedIn. Like, honestly, if I take out my employee hat, I am so passionate about LinkedIn. Like, I spend hours every single day, even on weekends, because I get to learn, I get to connect, I get to chat with friends. And, I find that it's so like professionally enriching for me. So yeah, I love the platform genuinely. Even if I didn't work there, I'd say the same.
Incredible, incredible. And I feel the same. The amount of things I've learned and how much I accelerated my own learning journey and career because of connecting with people like you and lots of other specialists. It's just a perfect place to to search for inspiration, for education, for uplift and expertise. There you go, using your three words for what the content should achieve. Thank you very much once again, Purna. Thank you so much for finding
Thank
the time to
you.
speak to us. And thank you very much, everyone, for joining us. We do these LinkedIn Lives every 2 weeks. We'll put some links into what is upcoming in the nearest future. And yeah, feel free to connect with us on LinkedIn and join us on this learning journey. So all the best for everyone. I wish you a great rest of the day, and we'll see you on our next session.